Greetings and welcome to the Sankofa Ancestor Shrine, where every week we invite spiritual Black folks to reconnect with our ancestors as we journey through the crossroads. Please consider donating through patreon.com/Sankofa Shrine. Although you won't be seeing my face in this video, you may still know me as Tatami, Sacred Woman Practitioner and host of the Sacred Sister Circle, where we journeyed through Queen Afwa's book Sacred Woman for the past 2 years, one gateway during each month. Thank you to everyone who accompanied me on this journey as I shared my thoughts from the book, and especially through 2019 as we connected what I had learned from Queen with what I knew of root work, womanism, and the modern needs of the Black community and its members. This year, the plan is for this channel to evolve. As you might guess from the name change of Sankofa Ancestor Shrine, the plan is, through your support, to utilize this space we've created over these years to evolve, grow, and be a consistent source of sacred inspiration for Black people reclaiming ATRs, specifically reclaiming ancestral veneration, nature veneration, and spirit, African practices, and utilize it much the same way that I have done on the page I created on Instagram, Spiritual Black Girls, and the way that has been building a community over the last few years. This channel will still be featuring a Sacred Sister Circle once monthly to discuss a theme, project such as the Sinab Freedom Quilt, shawl, or scarf that we are doing this year, a reading, or other thoughts specific to women or wombs. I also plan to continue inclusion of movement and other themes that many people enjoyed during these last few years. To be clear, each week we will be focusing on messages from the ancestors and spirit so that we will be able to connect with people as a community who are also following and practicing religions that involve ancestral veneration throughout the African diaspora as well as the motherland. Thank you so much for joining this channel and this movement, and I would appreciate if you liked and subscribed, as well as headed over to ritualready.com and got your free file for your 2020 spiritual planner, which is something that I plan on creating and continuing for many years to come. So with this introduction, I hope you understand my intentions and are as eager for this new year and new start as the Sankofa Ancestor Shrine as I am. Ancestors, we begin this year in a state of gratitude, in a place of thankfulness for everything that we have gained and learned in the past decade. And as we look around ourselves and realize how much we already have, how much we've already learned, how much we've already grown, we can recognize ourselves to be in a state of abundance. This path that we're on, we are grateful for it. This knowledge that we gain, we are grateful for it. This new month, this new year, this new decade, we are grateful for it. And we are so interested and eager to continue on this path of enlightenment, of faith, of spirituality, and of community as we continue to learn and grow with each other as a community. Ashe. For today's Sacred Self portion of the service, we will be doing more of a sacred sound meditation rather than sacred movement. What I invite you to do is listen to the sounds of nature. This is an evening by the river waterway out behind my house here in San Mateo, California. And let the sounds of the ducks and the different insects settling down for peace and sleep be your guide to communing with nature and meditating in whatever way you see fit, be that meditating on a specific affirmation, such as my ancestors have put me on this path, or trying to empty your mind and commune with nature that way. We're going to start with our fire breathing, which we will only be doing 50. Breathing in, we should feel our stomach go out. Breathing out, our stomach should go in. Afterwards, there will be a time of silence, listening to the nature, and then we will move on to the other portion of our service today. pushed on this path by the ancestors. Pushed on this path. That is today's theme. To accept that we've been pushed on a certain path and to embrace where that path is going, even though we may not know where that is. Ella Fitzgerald is quoted as saying, "It isn't where you come from, it's where you're going that counts." These words remind us to keep pushing forward and not be bogged down by the past. The road forward may not be easy, but it will be worth it. Many people returning to their indigenous and tribal religions have found that everything seems so aligned and have come to the conclusion themselves that they've been pushed on this path, or maybe intuitively started to feel it and recognize that that's why they are here. That's why they are where they are in their life. That's why they're connecting to the people they're connecting to. This is an important thing to recognize, because although it feels as though so many people are coming to this same conclusion at once, that there is a larger movement within the Black community where tens of thousands, probably more, are finding themselves drawn back to their ancestral ways. However, this is not the norm, and it's not the safest or the most liberated. The fact remains that the fight for Black liberation is not over yet. As it stands today, African traditional religion is still largely under attack. Christians often feel persecuted in the modern day, typically when they sense they're losing numbers, but this is largely not a realistic perception. Across the country, Christian practices are recognized. On Christian holidays, every store shuts down and most citizens are encouraged to celebrate, further legitimizing Christianity as a whole. In contrast, I'd like to offer the words of Assata Shakur, who once said, "I'm not quite sure what freedom is, but I know damn well what it ain't." In reality, it's still very dangerous in a lot of ways to practice an African traditional religion, and I don't mean this lightly. There's still legitimate chance of mockery, hatred, fear, and oppression in your place of work or your living situation, etc., by others for practicing these religions, especially those in Abrahamic faiths who tend to, by and large, still be in positions of power and trust. Throughout cinema and other forms of media, African religions specifically have been equated with monstrosities, toys, scams, evil, revenge, hatred, the lesser wrong, hateful, or easy path, and delegated as abnormal and deviant. From Disney's The Princess and the Frog to being the subject of games and joke and toy shops, to the occasional sour jar or sacrifice featured on the news or horror movie, ATRs are connected with this cruelty and the sense of making the wrong choice since we are children. This association can only be labeled as. Through this association with the devil, demons, evil, and so-called dark magic, others are trained to automatically exclude or shame us for this sacred path that brings us so much goodness and love that many of us find ourselves. When we look to other indigenous cultures that are non-African, non-Black, we see that their indigenous religions are in some ways respected and in other ways romanticized or even adopted, cherished, spread, and believed. Examples of this could be all of the people believing in the Mayan prophecy in the 2012s, and uh, the Native American dream catchers scattered throughout white people's homes. Um, these uses are absolutely harmful simplification and disrespectful. But the fact remains that their religions are not downgraded and labeled as inherently evil in the same way and to the same extent that traditional African ones are. There's not even really an official version of African traditional religions that are recognized and respected by the Western world. All of our factions have been labeled and considered rogue. So we're on very new territory when we embark on this path that we've been called on. This is not something that we are going to change overnight. It's something I expect will take years of dedication to create. I do, however, think that this is possible for those in the motherland as well as throughout the diaspora. At this time, it's going to take each person making small choices in their lives, choices that normalize African traditional religion for themselves, as well as normalize it for those around them, their children, their family and friends, and perhaps the internet and world at large to some extent, and for certain things that can be shown without issue. Every step we take is important and brave at this time because it revives something that many thought had been murdered and died off a long time ago, but still it breathed, and here we are now today strongly taking up this tradition. I say this all not to discourage you, but to encourage you, in fact. Times are very different than they were for our ancestors, and even for many of them didn't even have a choice and couldn't even risk being too out in the open unless they were a much higher level of power and could protect themselves. We do have choices. We do have options. And we also have the ability to connect with each other through the internet and exchange ideas in a way that we never could have. We can reach out and get contact with another spiritual Black person who can affirm our feelings, our intuition, and our needs in a way that we couldn't do with each other before. So as MLK said, if you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But by all means, keep moving. These things that you're doing are going to have profound effect later on. This foundation we're building by learning and connecting and reclaiming information and traditions is a steady foundation that we're building for the generations to come when we are ancestors ourselves. So this week, this month, this year, I encourage you to keep following your calling and your intuition, whatever it's telling you. Keep trusting in your ancestors. Keep focusing on your path. And may your ancestors and spirit guides be with you at every crossroads.